Good evening and welcome to Friday Frightners.
Yes, Friday Frightners. We've been released from the basement and we've locked Lois in there instead.
Exactly. We've been let loose. There's no women on here tonight. As usual, we may be joined by Nick at any time. You just never know. But he said he will come in. So there you go. Our subject tonight is paranormal investigating real life as opposed to movies in the paranormal and every genre, sci-fi. Because no doubt we will go down a few rabbit holes like we do. But that's the basic subject is movies versus paranormal. Hey, we've already got someone coming.
We've got Irene in.
Good evening, Irene.
Annette, she's calling us our number one stalker.
Evening.
And James Cottle. Hello, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, Lois is hiding. She's still there, nosing. But she's not allowed on. Yeah, she's not allowed on because
what's up, guys?
Good evening, Mr. Moulay.
We're free. Lois is in the
I got here as quick as I could.
Yeah, you're only a couple of minutes late. Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we've locked her in there.
I think I've briefed you, Nick, as to our subject tonight.
Yes.
Can you remember? Can you remember, Nick?
No, he's gone blank.
Sorry, no, I was a little bit confused by that. What were you asking?
The subject tonight, I've already briefed you.
Yeah, I remember you were saying about the paranormal versus movies. I just wasn't sure which one you were talking about.
Any of them.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Any movies.
Oh, all of them.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Anyone you want to bring up?
Yeah. The thing is, most events through history we've had paranormal activity that's hit the news headlines, shall we say, that are shortly after being a movie derived from it.
Yeah.
Pointing case. I watched one while I was researching something for the show, and that was I'll do a little intro into it. Paranormal investigating's been around in this particular form for just over 100 years. And every event being followed by a movie. Now, I started watching a trailer and ended up watching the film, and it's called Fairy Tale, of two young girls, Elsie and Frances. And they ended up taking pictures, apparently, of fairies at the bottom of the garden.
Yeah.
And this happened in my neck of the woods in Yorkshire. The actual event is true. These two kids were to live with their auntie in Yorkshire. They're from the south. And the film subsequently followed because of the notoriety of the pictures. Because at the time, nobody could say that these pictures were fake. Everybody and their uncle were saying that these pictures were real. So even today, the film is classed as real. Now, that's a point where there's not many films done that. There's the odd one or two, like Exorcist, and what's the other one? Oh, God, I can see the film, but I can't remember the name. Quite famous. Amityville Horror.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
The Amityville Horror, yeah.
Yeah, they're actually based on real life, apparently. Our task tonight is to sift through it, I think, and find out what actually is real and what's being poetic license.
Yeah.
From all genres.
Well, if you look at I can even say this. Yeah, I was going to say, if you look at like a film like The Exorcist, I mean, because I actually did an episode on the real case of Roland Doe about a year ago, and you kind of do start questioning because like when you find out that it is based on a true story in some way, but know that there's a lot of changes, it kind of gives you that same question, like especially for those who don't know the story, like what exactly did happen and what was just basically made for the film. Because when I was doing my research on it and when I presented it, you'll notice there's a lot of changes. There's quite some differences between the real case and the film and even the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Of course, one of the biggest changes was the sex of the person who was possessed.
Yeah, they changed it from a boy to a girl. Yeah. See, now Irene just wrote down here. She said there is a new movie out in Japan called Inunaki Machi. I hope I'm saying that correctly, which means the Howling Village, and it's based on a place near where my husband was born, and he knows all about the haunted village, and it's dangerous unless you know what and how you go about visiting the village. You have to be careful and grounded as well. So I think that this movie that she's talking about, I think that kind of goes along the lines of what we're talking about right now. Never heard of this one, but I'll have to definitely check it out.
Yeah, definitely. That's a new one. New one on me.
Yeah, definitely have to check that one out.
It's got to be. I mean, even if it's not, but even if it's not fully accurate, it's probably still scary as hell. Because I mean, let's be honest and face it, Japan makes some pretty scary movies.
Well, yeah,
Well,
a lot of the films
Ian, you were saying
Japanese legends are quite freakishly scary, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I mean, I think I touched on it in another program, another show about Owlman over here. That was based on truth. It was based on truth, and it actually turned out that it was an escapee, a large species of owl, very large, that's not native to this country. It did escape, and sure enough, the lifespan of the owl dictated the length of the myth, because after 7 years, it totally disappeared. But
what's interesting about this is you.
Come.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bryce. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying that after 7 years of this, every summer, this creature, large owl and man, appearing just a couple of months out of year and scaring people to death. After 7 years, it disappeared. It was no more, because that was the lifespan of this escaped owl, which they didn't publish at the time. It was only after the fact, yet again, that they released actual proof that this owl did exist, but it wasn't active and got out.
Yeah, very true.
Well, what's interesting about what you brought up, since I know a lot about the Owlman too, is considering its similar descriptions, a lot of people often say that the Owlman actually kind of has, because of its similar size and appearance, that a lot of people compare it very similar to the Mothman here in the United States. And some people have even at one point wondered, could the Mothman and the Owlman, even be the same creature or even the same species? Because both were 7 feet tall, both had wingspans of 10 to 15 feet, and of course, most importantly, both of them had glowing red eyes. Although the one difference between both of them was that the Mothman, of course, was known to appear before disasters or tragedies. The Owlman didn't really seem like after the Owlman sightings there wasn't any big tragedies, but that didn't mean that there could have been a few years later. But what's interesting, kind of like putting it to the film kind of look, I mean, when you kind of put it to the film direction of things, the Mothman, of course, eventually had its own movie, which was the Mothman Prophecies, which they borrow a lot of the real sightings and accounts that occurred. But of course, there are still some differences. One, instead of being set in the 60s, it's set in the modern era, early 2000s. And also, if you guys have seen the Mothman Prophecies, right? The movie, you guys have seen it.
Yeah.
So remember at the end of the movie, like when the bridge collapsed, which obviously you can tell that was based on the Silver Bridge collapse of 1967. They lowered down the death toll, because the real death toll for the Silver Bridge collapse was 46 people, but in the film they lowered it down to 36. Never really. I mean, someone said a long time ago there was a particular reason why they lowered it down to 36 instead of using the actual number. It wasn't really because they wanted to make this a separate kind of event, but I think they did something else to. They had to make some kind of change to the death toll number.
Yeah, and I think also there's another creature called the Mimic. It's loosely based. I think it's loosely based on the same story, but it's more subterranean. And this creature is described as a man-sized cockroach, but it's shield casing. Yeah, makes it look human-ish. It does coincide with things that were happening, and I do believe it's Chicago where it were based, because it's subterranean and there were a lot of gas accumulating below ground, and there were people dying from asphyxiation. I think that's the word, which coincided with these sightings. Now, was it hallucinations due to gas? Was it association based on other cryptids, i.e. Mailman and Mothman? But the descriptions are very similar. So are a lot, like you said, Nick, are a lot of these things connected via hearsay and then taken up by film producers and sensationalized?
Yeah, wasn't there? There was also a recent sighting of Mothman, wasn't there?
Go ahead, Ian.
O'Hare International Airport.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh my God. There have been so many sightings lately that for whatever reason, starting in 2017, we started getting these reports of, obviously a Mothman-like creature throughout Chicago, though not just in Chicago. It was like throughout northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, northwestern Indiana, and even parts of southern Michigan and western Ohio. But it seemed like the epicenter was Chicago, and it wasn't long before they eventually decided. It's funny because you see this creature, like in Point Pleasant, it's the Mothman. Of course, obviously said in Cornwall, they call it the Owlman. So obviously it had a different name for Chicago, and they called it the Chicago Phantom. And there's still a number of sightings that are still going on here to this day. And for a lot of people who are familiar with it, we were so concerned, thinking that could this be something? Is this foreseen tragedy? Is it our turn to experience like a massive tragedy that could occur in Chicago? But what's kind of ironic, though, is that maybe we already did have that tragedy, because some of the Chicago investigators actually speculated that, once when really not long after the sightings kind of started toning down a bit, not long after that, COVID-19 hits, a lot of people died. So some of the Chicago investigators who have been following these reports say, could this have been the tragedy that, in this case, the Chicago Phantom was trying to warn us about? And although we still have a few sightings, that occur in the Chicago area, they're not as frequent as what they were a few years back.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, that, Nick, because some sightings of certain things have increased through the pandemic and others have subsided. So that, again, shows a difference between, I think, reality and association. Because you can get what they call it, mass hysteria, where one person says something and it's associated and they say, yeah, I saw that too. And they didn't. It was something similar, but it wasn't what that other person saw. But at the end of the day, you've got 1,000 people saying they all saw the same thing. I don't think so.
Yeah, the thing as well, that report at O'Hare International Airport was by Chicago firemen. So you'd expect them not to be so jumped to conclusions. So it sort of gives it a bit more weight.
I just looked it up because I actually keep a Google map with me, and it's actually a special Google map that is designed to keep all like these Chicago Phantom sightings. And I just looked up the most recent one because I actually was kind of curious since we were talking about it.
Is that called My Pet Tracker, Nick?
No, no, it's just Chicago Phantom Google map, Mothman map, I think. So, but it says here the most recent one. The guy that had the experience, I guess he actually had two experiences because it says the first one was in 2014. He was 17. This witness was 17 years old at the time. Although this occurred in Morgantown, West Virginia, which I'm not really sure how far that is from Point Pleasant, but regardless, it's back in the state of where it all began. I'm not going to read the full story because it's kind of a little bit long. What's that?
What time of year?
What was that?
What time
this was
of
November
year?
5th. November of 2000. It was November of. It just says November 2014. So, but that was when he was. That was when he was younger. But then apparently he had a second sighting. Now this sighting, which was extremely recent. This was on August 15th. So like 15 days ago. He said, I witnessed a dark humanoid-like being that I saw flying in the early evening sky around 7:15 p.m. It had large wings that were shaped like a bat. I'd say that it was approximately 100 to 200 feet above me, gliding westbound very slowly. I reached for my phone, but it suddenly gathered speed and quickly zoomed off. I lived near Chicago in Evanston, which, by the way, that's like only 20 minutes from me. But the sighting took place while I was at public storage located at 2050 Green Bay Road. I was with my husband and daughter at the time. And then just a few days later, her husband and she says, my husband and I observed a huge bright cylindrical object in the sky. It straked above our property while we were in the backyard. The time was approximately 9:40 p.m. It was traveling too fast for a photograph. So it's obvious that there's still a lot of activity involving supposedly the Mothman and also even UFO reports here in our city.
Yeah, exactly. This is what this is the thing. And then, as I've said, films spin off from that. On Alien side, you've got Close Encounters, which is a sighting, and it leaves an indelible thought on these people's minds, and they're compelled to seek Table Mountain out. We have a similar thing over here.
My brother's been to Table Mountain and never saw one.
Yeah. I've been to I've been to Pendle Inn and not seen a witch, So
well, I've not been to Pendle, but I've seen quite a few witches.
Yeah, we associate with one, don't we? But
that's a demon.
I would not even be surprised. I would not even be surprised, even with the encounters that we're having over here. That, I mean, who knows? Somebody might already be making a film out of the sightings here in Chicago. Because, again, if it's getting so much national attention, there's obviously going to be somebody out there that will want to make a film about it.
Exactly. Have we got any comments? I've not seen any comments for a bit.
Well, apparently Irene said that The Ring was based on a true story too. I'd like to know about that. I never knew that it was based. Irene, if you give us,
that's based on what's the ghost called? The girl with the long hair, isn't it? Somebody in Japan caught her on camera.
What, Rapunzel?
Well, I know it's a woman in white. I know it's a woman in white. It's not La Llorona because that's in Mexico. So I'm trying to think of who could be in Japan because there's several different legends and versions of woman in white that have like the long hair to it. I know there's something called Hanako. Hanako, I think if I'm saying that right. That's what it is.
There's a guy on YouTube in Japan. He was just going around some old buildings that were empty, filming, and he actually caught her on camera.
Hey.
She was just hanging. She didn't really notice to start with. She was just hanging in the air, and as he realised, she went up through the ceiling. But yeah, I bet that freaked him out.
But it did. But yeah, Japanese witches, they tend to be depicted as long, wavy, white-haired women. You see, that's an oddity, that as well. Different cultures portray the same things totally different. I mean, in Ireland, for example, the banshee, which is their equivalent of demonic witch, they're also got long, scraggy hair, but it's not white, but it's grey, which is quite close, similar depictions.
As with anything, it's
Hanako.
It's people's perspectives, isn't it? And their
it's Hanako. That's how it's
It's
Hanako. That's how you say. That's how you pronounce it. I just figured it out. So that's how you say Hanako.
Okay.
Now Robert's asking, who has seen the new pictures of the Loch Ness monster? I thought I heard about some new photos that were taken.
Yeah, I've seen the thermal image. You can't really see a lot, but
which leads me to the next thing. Yeah, which leads me to the next thing. The outcome, the pickup on paranormal and movies has been quite recent. It started in late 90s in the advent of digital, because digital, you can portray a hell of a lot more. You're not needing special effects so much. Yet again, it's the advent of AI. And as AI takes off, I do believe that we're going to be seeing a hell of a lot more and new cryptids and new aliens and one thing or another. It's going to become even harder to prove what's fact and what's fiction.
Yeah, definitely.
There was one movie actually, there was in fact one movie that was so inaccurate, and they were basing it on a cryptid, but the title was so inaccurate and it didn't even make any sense. It's a movie that I won't even watch because I heard it's just absolutely ridiculous. And despite its name, it is not a sequel in any way, shape, or form. But you guys obviously are familiar with the movie An American Werewolf in London, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got great movie. Very, very funny. And of course, they made that terrible sequel, which was An American Werewolf in Paris. Well, I think it was from the film company The Asylum. They decided to make a movie called An American Werewolf in Mexico, which you can clearly tell from the poster that it's not a werewolf. You can clearly tell they're basing it on the Chupacabra. And from what I've heard is that it's a terrible film. It's not worth seeing, but they don't make it accurate. That's a perfect example of when they have these cryptids involved in these movies.
Well,
it's almost like
that's what happens to a werewolf who drinks tequila.
So that would make it like a werewolf then. Like a double one.
It would be a not very werewolf.
Try to think of what other movies out there that have kind of
spaghetti western version. There's a lot of things that's coming out, and they bear no relation whatsoever to the original. They're getting more farcical, and I think it's simply because we're running out of ideas. Yeah. Everything's been revisited.
Yeah, we are.
So it's a case of what can we do next?
Yeah, what can we mess
there's
up
only
next?
ever been, honestly, there's only one idea I could even, there's only ever one been, there's really, I can't talk today. There's only been one movie recently that was pretty original. I mean, it's not necessarily, you guys obviously know all too well that, I love I'm a huge fan of the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books. And when they made that film, that was probably one of the best original ones I think I've seen in a long time, because it didn't rely on jump scares, and it was also a film in which horror movies were used. I mean, it's basically a film of what horror movies used to be. They were guys in costumes. They were guys that used special effects. They did not rely on jump scares. They had a good storyline. It didn't start off super scary. It slowly got there. And if you've ever seen the film, you see very little CGI, and it's just so original. I mean, it's based on a book, but they actually make an original story along with it. So, as I would often say, that's one of the few examples where it's not a prequel, it's not a sequel, it's not a remake, it's not some modern update, it's not based on a Japanese horror film. It's an original film, and we're just seeing less of that, sadly. So you're absolutely right on that, Bryce. So the Scary Stories Tell in the Dark movie that was made 4 years ago was one of the first original for at least within several years.
Yeah, one of my favorite films, and I don't know what you could class it as, possibly sci-fi, but it's not above ground. And apparently, which I didn't know for quite some time, it also is based loosely, and I'll say very loosely, on 3 accounts from Project Blue Book, which I was really surprised, and that's The Abyss.
Yes,
The Abyss. I've heard of that one. I don't know if I've seen that one, but I know I've heard of it though.
The DC rover, and they got into difficulties, and they saw what I don't know what would you call them? Not UFOs, but underwater things.
USOs.
And USOs, yeah, and it were hush covered up, went into the Blue Book, and wasn't released for a long time after the film. So how did they get hold of that and turn that into a film? It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah,
right.
It just shows you that there's always been leaks.
Yeah, big time.
I think honestly one of the best movies I could think of that, even though it's not fully accurate, but they still do a really good job with it, and it's based on another cryptid, in fact. And it's actually a comedy horror film, but it's still a classic to that day. And I think it's spawned like 4 sequels and even a television series. Is the movie Tremors with Kevin Bacon in it, and that is that's actually, even though it's set in America, that is actually based on what's known as the Mongolian death worm in Mongolia. So, and there are differences compared to the legend of the film, but it's certainly one of the better ways to kind of portray cryptids, as a destructive force. Like I think they described in one, it might have been the first one that they described that the graboids, as they're called, instead of death worms, the graboids are pretty much the same as what sharks are, the hunters of the desert, as sharks are of the ocean.
Yes, they've recently showed the full series over here, and I like the first 2. I don't like the 3rd and the 4th, because yet again, running out of ideas and turning these worms from worms to something totally different, and it just got daft for me. It's silly.
Yeah, went to the ass blasters.
Yeah.
So stupid.
Well, another set of films like that is Paranormal Activity. The first Paranormal Activity film looked very authentic. After that, they just blew it.
Yes, exactly.
See, I was actually just starting. I was actually just starting my years in high school when that movie came out. So I was fortunate enough to see that movie when it first came out in theaters. So that was really quite a special experience to see it in the theater when it first came out.
Yeah. Well, for us, I don't know about anybody else, but for us in my generation, the film that scared the shit out of us was The Exorcist, because the government itself took it so serious that they were sending priests out to splash everybody with holy water when you went in to watch the film because they were scared that you were going to get possessed. It scared shit out of me when I was having a good laugh with me mates. I'm going to watch this. I'm not going to be scared. I walks into the foyer and there's a priest there spouting religious garb and chucking holy water at us. I've said, who's that Philip doing that? I said, oops, sorry.
They also believe the film was cursed because there were. Yeah. They also believe that there's a legend saying that the film is cursed. They thought that anybody who saw this movie was not safe, and they even said it was connected to a number of accidents that occurred. Like there was like fights, there were riots, like people wanted to go see it. There were a number of deaths that occurred, and in fact, there was, come to think of it, because again, I covered this on one of my shows that, and this happened in the UK. There was an occasion where it might have been downtown London, where one of the theaters was showing The Exorcist, and while people were in the theater watching it, there was a severe thunderstorm that occurred while the movie was playing, and just across the street from the theater was a church, and the next thing you know, suddenly a bolt of lightning struck and it hit the cross of the church, which came tumbling down and fell right to the ground. Fortunately, nobody was in the way when that happened, but it did nearly kill, at least it nearly hit a few people that were walking by, and this all occurred, while The Exorcist was playing. So that's a primary example where they believe the film was so cursed that it affected not only anyone who saw it, but the people around them or the area around them.
It will probably be a vicar looking for publicity.
Yeah.
We like to up the ante in the UK, make it more authentic.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember here there was like people who like needed, I think, like therapy after. I think they said there was like people who needed therapy after they watched it. They were just so frightened by that film.
Again, I think it were all to do with the hype. I mean, if you're walking into a theatre expecting to watch a film, and all of a sudden you're getting splashed with holy water and a vicar that's spouting all this religious stuff in Latin that you haven't got a clue what he's saying, you're going to be a bit more hyped up than you would have been, aren't you? You're not going to sleep that night, are you? At all.
Christopher Lee, wow.
Yeah, well,
I wanted to go to this comment here.
That's why.
I wanted to go to this comment that Irene had wrote. My son's school's haunted by a 14-year-old girl who was killed by her mother, who threw her down the well because her mother had this child outside of her marriage to prevent her husband from finding out. So she killed her daughter. My son got creeped out when she knocked on the bathroom door as he was going to the bathroom. Let's say he isn't going to the toilet in the school bathroom anymore. I knew it was haunted. I found her at the opening ceremony for the new students. That does kind of sound, again, like a lot like the story of The Ring, where Sadako's thrown down a well. Yeah.
There's another film as well, isn't there? Is it the Covenant or something like that? I can't remember what they call it. We bought.
What's up, John?
What they call it? Summit Bork. Feruza Bork. Yeah, that's her. I think it's the Covenant. There's a scene of that in that where toilets are off limits because there's a particular entity in there. In fact, I think there's a scene of that in one of Harry Potter films as well.
Yes, Moaning Myrtle.
Yes, yeah. So they have used that one in quite a few films because it's only one facet. It's not good enough to make a full film, I think. So they've stuck it in a few.
Well, it'd be a limited location, wouldn't it?
Yes.
It would be. I was going to say that you brought it up, that even the Harry Potter series at times, kind of delve into some of the legends, especially in the UK. And there was actually one that two of which I was really familiar with, which I don't know if they used it in any of the movies. I think they used them in the books, and I know they used them in one of the video games that they did, which was a type of dog spirit called guy trashes, which they're like these demonic looking dogs. And again, I'm not sure if you ever saw if they were used in the movies, but I know they're featured in the books and one of the games. But they stay accurate. They actually stay pretty accurate to the story. I mean, to the legend, because they're these dog-like spirits that hunt after dark, and the only way to keep them, they're said to be extremely aggressive, but they're afraid of the light. So obviously, the Harry Potter stories and also the games, that they have to use like a particular light spell. I think it's their Lumos spell to scare them off. So they continue, even though they're using magic in it or spells, they're continuing on the tradition of how to war off, evil entities. And then the other I heard was what's called as the Bogarts, which I think was at least in one of the Harry Potter films, which is another famous legend throughout the UK.
Yeah, I actually prefer spin-off involving all the creatures. It were on not long since. What do they call it now? Oh God! Fantastic Creatures and Where to Find Them.
Beasts.
Yeah, and where to find them. I found that really. There were a lot of loosely based on cryptids. There were a lot in that.
They were.
And fable, creatures of fable like Phoenix. Phoenix were in it, so quite a lot in that one. Fantastic creatures.
There are centaurs. Don't forget, there was also centaurs, and those are based off of Greek mythology.
Yes, which were in Harry Potter, but again, taking that step further in that Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Oh, yeah, that were really good.
Jed's like, I'd start going into seizures and spitting my drink out just to freak people out if I got splashed with holy water in a movie. You know what? I gotta say this since Jen's watching right now. I think now I could basically make a perfect horror movie for her, and that it should be shot in Nebraska. What do you say, Jen? You want to be in this Nebraska horror film? You guys don't get it. She hates Nebraska, so I had to say that.
If you get Lois in the film, just sprinkle. You won't need special effects. Just throw the holy water at her, and you'll get that effect.
Yeah, she'll start spitting up.
I can already see right now. If Lois was on right now, she'd be giving you the finger. I could just see that right now. Now, Robert makes a good point. Imagine being in Stephen King's head. You would never sleep again.
No.
I mean,
what that guy I believe that.
Yeah, what that guy puts on paper can only be a fraction of what's going on in his head. So that is a scary thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, let's even talk about something with Stephen.
I could make a good book. I could make a good book because I have some right thoughts.
Yeah. I'd write a good horror book, but I'd probably scare myself. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
and then
of think about it too. I mean, let's talk quickly.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
I'd get myself put into an asylum afterwards, I would imagine.
Well, I was going to say something like Stephen King. Let's kind of dump. But if you look at something like Stephen King, I mean, let's delve into like one of his stories that's based on a true story. Obviously, undoubtedly one of his best works, The Shining, which he based off of the Stanley his experiences from the Stanley Hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, I
mean, the story is completely
one of the best films ever. That one.
Oh yeah. Well, and although the story obviously is far different than what he experienced when he actually stayed in the Stanley Hotel, you could tell that it was obviously the experience that he had at the Stanley Hotel really inspired him to eventually write this book, and then eventually became a film. Then you had a television, in the 80s, and then you had the television film in the 90s, and most recently, just a few years ago, The Shining got its first official sequel, which was Dr. Sleep, which although none of the actors from the original one are in it, it actually was probably honestly, in my opinion, was one of the best sequels that I've seen since John Carpenter's The Thing, because and they're already actually planning on trying to make a third film. So it seems like, I mean,
coming around.
Yeah,
the thing is coming around.
Now, don't get me wrong. Now don't get me wrong. I mean, The Shining obviously will always be the best. The sequels, I mean, is just as good too, but still, of course, not as great as the original. But they're actually having one of two ideas of what they want to do. Because did you guys see Dr. Sleep? Did you guys see that film?
Yeah.
Okay, so since you guys have seen it,
no, I've not seen that.
So Brian, I'm not going to try to really spoil too much, but they have one of two ideas of what they want to do for a third film. Ian, since you've seen it, they are deciding that either they're going to make a sequel and focus on the new kid that was in Dr. Sleep, like focus on her senses, or if they aren't going to do that one, and this is also another pretty smart idea, then the third potential film could actually be a prequel to the first two films, because there was the caretaker who had that connection before he was murdered with by Jack Nicholson's character with the axe. They're actually considering too about maybe making a film on his story, which again, that in turn would be a prequel to the first two films. So regardless, whichever direction they go to, it could still take several years, but there's still a likelihood we could eventually see two more movies come out based on this, based on this original story by Stephen King. So again, it's amazing how one person's experience can not only turn it into a book and turn it into a film, but eventually could turn it into a series.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, if they make it as good as Dr. Sleep, then there'll be worthy follow-ups, won't they?
Right.
Yeah, I can't comment because I've not seen. But
well, it's got that fellow Englishman of mine in it, Ewan McGregor.
Oh,
as Lois would say. Yeah, so
here's one for you that's apparently based.
Look who just showed up. What's up, Link?
Hello.
That's too late.
You managed to get a nice.
I finally made it back.
What? They let you out the tower, did they?
It's quite easy to get in there, actually. How is everybody?
Yeah. Look,
doing great,
very well, mate. Very well.
We're doing great.
Apparently, oh my God, there is an echo.
Yeah, we can hear an echo. I can hear it. You guys can hear that too, right? There's an echo going on.
Yep. Wayne, have you got another device on?
No.
Right. Well,
shall I go out and come back in?
You can.
Try it.
Yeah, if you want to try. Try it. Yeah, if there's a way you can.
I'll leave then. See if I can. I'll be back.
Yes.
I'll be back.
Anyway, the island of Dr. Moreau apparently is loosely linked to Second World War experiments by a certain guy called Mengele. I didn't associate whatsoever, but it seems to be the case. It's back.
You can hear it too.
You're the
I haven't said anything.
Are you at the Norwegian Forge just by any chance, Wayne? Because we've got the echo.
No, I'm sitting in my kitchen.
Or is the film you're talking about The Sound of Music?
I only went to Blackpool.
Are you sure it wasn't a black hole? Because you got the echo.
The biggest difference, though, actually, is Wayne's not echoing now, but we are.
Exactly.
I can't hear any echoes.
Yeah,
Well, you wouldn't if you're not echoing.
Yeah, but even
everything
you're
we
not
say is
echoing.
being repeated.
That's why I'm.
All I've got is bright flickering.
See, that's why I'm muting my mic at the very least, so I don't have to keep echoing.
I don't know. Oh,
What I said was,
Eric's saying put
headphones
headphones on, maybe.
I can't on my phone.
no, and I can't on my phone.
It's the first because
See, I'm actually doing this from my computer.
Yeah, so am I. But we didn't have an echo till Wayne appeared.
Eric's saying, "Sing it, the hills, sing it. The hills are alive with the sound of music."
I've lost my singing voice. I lost my singing voice on the way back from Blackpool.
Yeah, we noticed. Sing it, girl.
Pizza Hut, Pizza Hut.
Kentucky Fried Chicken and a pizza.
We had to do it. It was to sort of break the monotony of travelling along the M6.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So, for some reason, though, normally when you go on a journey, it usually takes longer to get there than it is to get back.
Yeah.
But this time round, it was the other way around. It actually took us over an hour longer to get back than it took to get there.
Probably because you wanted to stop.
We didn't want to stop. I wanted to come straight home. I was going to go straight through without stopping.
Were you abducted en route?
Adapted weren't the word. I think with Freddie, it was attracted. It was like, I think Freddie needs a nappy change. Okay, we better stop.
Yeah.
There was a couple of times when we thought that he had, and he actually hadn't, and that was because the farmers had been crop spreading. And we literally were driving down the road, and all of a sudden it was, oh my God, what the hell is that? And of course, it turned out the farmers have been putting out the natural fertilizer, and it absolutely reeked. Oh. Anyway,
Yeah.
what's the subject of conversation for tonight then, apart
Yes,
from...
I was going to tell you, Wayne, the subject tonight is normal, real life paranormal investigation versus movies.
Versus movies?
Yeah.
Basically movies based on true stories, but how they differ.
Oh, sort of like a bit like when the lights went out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
considering
to be honest,
house.
I had been talking about that while I was away. We've been talking about that particular movie, and how the 30 East Drive itself isn't as haunted as the movie portrayed.
It's a certain time of the year. I mean, I only live 20 minutes away from the place, so
I've been there twice, and it has not been as active as it was made out to be.
no.
Various people that I know went there, and they said the same thing, that there was hardly any activity there. I do know for a fact a few things about there, things that happened there, including on live TV, that was a load of crap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We won't go down that road.
Well, no, I spent 3 nights there, and the sofa where a certain knife appeared was my bed for 3 nights. So,
I mean, everyone's going, "Oh, the dreaded coal shed." I felt so comfortable in that coal shed. It was unbelievable.
we had more activity during the day than we had at night.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the activity is beside the fireplace. There is a portal there.
Yeah, which was nice.
Yeah.
It's nice because you're telling me that after, Bri, because that's where my head was.
Exactly. That's what I mean. And I guarantee, if you were there at right time of year, you will have got activity, but not what's normally portrayed.
Yeah.
As in the stories.
Yeah.
The funny thing was, we were live feeding every night till about 5 in the morning. And one night we had 2 coppers turn up at the door. And they said, "Oh, we're out in the call. We just thought we'd pop in and see what you're up to." So we showed them around the house. And we were all stood in the kitchen. And the younger copper said, I'm a skeptic, don't believe in it. And anyway, the other couple was telling us a story. We all started laughing. And when we stopped laughing, a little girl laughed in the hallway, and their faces were a picture.
Yeah. And that would most definitely have been the mimic.
Yeah.
That came through the portal. Because that's one of the traits that the mimic tends to use is a little girl. There's lots of people mention this little girl. It's not connected with the lights went out whatsoever.
Yeah.
But that's the story that the owners wanted to pump, shall we say.
I mean,
It's peculiar because the filmmaker actually owns the house, doesn't he?
Now,
Yeah.
But I mean, you would have thought he'd have bought the house and then filmed it there, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
the thing is obviously because it was I would say it was a big budget film, but a decently sized budget film. And maybe it didn't gross as much as what it should have done. And so therefore he's kept a hold of the house to try and get some of his money back.
Yeah.
And you look at how many people keep going there, it's constant.
Yeah, it's booked up for a year, isn't it? Ahead.
Yeah. So maybe it's that, he's obviously kept it all there. And you compare 30 East Drive to the likes of the Enfield house.
Yeah.
I've been told by somebody that lives on the estate that house is about as haunted as a fish and chip shop that's only just opened in a brand new building with no ghosts in it. Because when it was cleansed, everything went. And the old lady I spoke to said that the building opposite is more haunted than the Enfield house. And yet people are still, they're still swarming towards it simply because because of its infamy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
it's in contrary to popular belief. Yep. Sorry, with the echo.
Yeah, that is definitely pretty bad. Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, we've got some places near me that there is no activity whatsoever. It's all residual, what we call residual. I mean, we all know what we're talking about here with residual, but for anybody that doesn't know, it's like play a playback on a tape deck. It's the haunting that used to actually be real, but it's just a shadow of its former self.
Yeah.
So it's in the fabric of the building. So a building can be knocked down but was haunted. They rebuild a building with the same timbers, and you will get a residual haunting. It's not real. It's just echoes of the real thing. It can be quite compelling to somebody that doesn't know anything, and they're trying to interact with this residual haunting, and it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're just going to have to watch. It's just like watching a video.
It's like trying to interact with a movie, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
You know, if you kind of think about it too, since you also brought up Wayne about like Enfield, is that contrary to popular belief, like obviously a few years back we had The Conjuring 2 that based on Enfield. That was not the first ever movie to be based on Enfield, because there was a television documentary I think that was made like several years prior. I think there was also another movie based on Enfield. So even before it eventually got added to the Conjuring series, it eventually, you know, it already had a number of other movies.
Yeah.
Even the Conjuring films, I've spoken to their grandson, and he says they've characterised them very well, but the stories of it,
it's a lot different, very different.
But yeah, I mean, they didn't have that much to do with Enfield anyway.
Yeah.
They were asked by the Catholic Church to go and look at the place, but they were told they weren't needed.
Yeah, Rob, bird saying hearing in stereo. There's an echo that is coming from Wayne's side, but he can't hear it.
I don't know. I'm wondering whether it's Bryce.
We can't.
I'm on the video footage I'm getting here. I'm starting to get epileptic seizures from Bry's camera. It keeps flickering. He's doing this in front of his camera. Have you got your phone in front of a fan, Bry?
No.
No. But he's got an alien
Nikolai said, "I've done East Drive."
We just don't know what Lois is up to do.
Yeah, Nicholas saying about East Drive, nothing happens. That happens to a lot of people. I went into East Drive with no expectations, and we got a handful of things happen that was quite legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I'm saying that East Drive isn't haunted, because I reckon it is. But I don't think it's as haunted. Yeah. The likes of a certain TV show and the movie have made East Drive like one of the most haunted places in the UK, when in fact it isn't. You know, my garden shed's probably. My garden shed's more haunted.
An average haunted.
Yeah, as far as things goes, it's average.
What they've done is taken the narrative and tried to make the story of the place as the haunting, and it's new. There's a bigger story there from previous buildings. Because the haunting comes from an older time. Have we got any comments?
It's definitely still worth investigating, but unfortunately, it's been investigated that much. You're not going to get stuff every time.
No,
right.
I mean, a certain well-known TV personality here has gone on record to say that people need to leave East Drive alone for about 6 months, and then things will start kicking off again.
Yeah.
Well, in a way, that's probably his ticket that it is only active at certain times of year, which it is.
Yeah, I mean, well, we know for a fact that a lot of places, if they have renovations done or redecorating done, activity starts building again. And we've got like the Red Lion Hotel in Colchester. Every time they redecorate that place, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
Well,
East Drive has still got the same wallpaper from the 70s.
Yeah. So maybe all they need to do is just change, put a fresh coat of wallpaper on there, and that might all start.
That'll start it off there.
Yeah.
If you put anything but eggshell paint back up, it'll kick off.
Or the wood chip wallpaper.
Well, yes.
Oh, I hated that stuff.
Yeah, it's a nightmare, isn't it?
It's as bad as old, isn't it?
Wood chip and vinyl silk paint on top of it is the worst thing.
You wallpaper folks will move in.
I don't do wallpaper. I prefer to just paint.
Yeah, I do now.
I probably would do the same too. I'm not much of a wallpaper person first.
Yeah, but we can see in evidence, Brian, you've got Artek's walls.
Yeah. And they are as I moved in. We ain't touched them.
Yeah, you're super posh.
I'd be worried about going round to Nick's, to be honest, because you walk in now and all you'll see is black walls with Things Network written across the back of the wall. You're like getting a bit obsessive there, Nick.
You'll see mine is
yeah, but he got the black and green paint at a discount.
Who's your flashing one?
Hey?
Brian, stop playing with your cat balls.
Yeah, let's not go down that road again.
I can't do the
Yeah.
I was on a live feed during the week. We were talking about dog balls, so we thought we'd change. Thought we'd change the subject a bit. We started talking about spiky dog balls instead.
That'd be the next one. Next year we're gonna have horse balls.
Probably won't be.
Them things don't roll anyway.
Well, it won't be. It probably won't be long after that. Is the human balls?
Yeah.
I'm not even going to comment. I don't want to set that Lois off.
The comments hasn't really been going too active, so we haven't really been missing out on a lot.
And on that note,
Really?
Exactly.
You've been playing with your stylophone, haven't you, Brian? That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. You got Ralph Harris round, Wayne.
He's been looking after the kids.
You know him.
How's that, guys and girls?
Now then. Can you guess what it is yet?
Yeah, we won't go there.
We've got a fence going in here. I can just peek through the holes.
Two little boys.
My friend sent me a video of Not the 9 o'clock news from years ago, and it was taking the mickey out of Rolf Harris on a Saturday morning show. If you watch it now, it completely sends a different message.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, isn't it? You look at TV shows in the 80s, and they were, compared to nowadays, they were as risky as anything.
Oh,
Yeah, Rainbow.
You know, you couldn't put. I mean, Nick,
I've seen a few of them.
Nick might have heard him, but Benny Hill.
Yeah.
You know, the British comedian Benny
I remember
Hill,
Benny Hill.
predominant in the 80s, got so risky. And in this day and age, he would not have been put on TV.
I'm telling you now, what's Rainbow?
I'm sure he wouldn't.
Yeah, but I'm not being funny, mate. Look at children's TV from our era.
Yeah.
Rainbow. With Bungle.
There was nothing wrong with Rainbow.
Rainbow.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, but at the time we didn't think there was anything wrong with it.
Zippy keeps playing with me.
Or Captain Pugwash. I tell you what, Nick,
playing with his balls again.
if we sent you links for children's TV, you'd freak out.
Yeah, Nick, you must watch Rainbow, honestly. Funny out.
If we told you the names of the
Wait, what was that, Brian?
Captain Pugwash, you wouldn't believe it.
You need to watch a program called Rainbow, Nick. It's a kids' program.
Magic Roundabout. Magic Roundabout.
Oh, yeah, I guess we'll have to check it out then, see what that's all about, because I don't think I've heard of that one before.
Definitely.
I'll send you a video, Nick.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, sounds good. This ought to be interesting.
Well, the thing is,
It's too bad I wasn't.
on Rainbow. There used to be 3 singers called Rod, Jane, and Freddie, and they always slept in the same bed.
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
You know, so,
oh man!
of course, this day and age, you no, that's you can't have that. Oh no. So of course,
They say you could put that in. You could put something like that in South Park, but not on a kids show.
Oh, trust me, it was all on our kids' shows. Trust me, Nick.
This ought to be interesting.
When you're a kid, you think nothing of it.
Yeah, because Jim were always playing with Red's clackers. Oh, me.
Well, you know, I'm just going to be honest because, like, I grew up with my own shows throughout the 90s and early 2000s, and I've actually been looking back into some of those shows I used to watch, and you know, as a kid, I didn't really think much of it either. Looking back at it now, I'm thinking, wow, how on earth did I miss that type of content? That just sounds so wrong in this day and age. But you know what? That was okay back then.
Yeah. And I think one of the worst modern ones is In the Midnight Garden. That is risky.
my oldest two kids used to love the Night Garden.
Exactly.
You know what? I'm actually trying to think of, like, because we've gone obviously completely off topic. I'm actually trying to think if there's, like, any horror films that could have derived from something like this. And that's what I'm trying to think of.
What? Listen, how about this one? Billy the Kid versus Dracula. It's an action. Billy the Kid versus Dracula. Look, that one is
Yeah. We know there's been a lot of echo. It's happening on Wayne's side. You're not the first to have said something about this.
Yeah, it's all my fault.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
I personally blame
Kate loves
the
her
connection.
Yeah, I was gonna say it must be the connection.
Who loves those accents?
Yeah, whose accent?
But Kate loves your accent as always, though. Yeah.
It's got to be my accent.
Yeah.
I got accused of sounding like the clown walking around one of the big arcades in Blackpool this morning.
Lovely.
And I'm like, really? She went, yes, it was your voice. Your voice is so spooky. And then my mate turned around and he went, oh, he's a paranormal investigator, so he should be spooky. And it was literally the morning.
I gotta stand up for a
after.
sec. I'll be right back.
It was the morning after a certain TV show started their stage show in Blackpool last night. And my friends went and saw the show.
Yeah.
£52 they're never going to get back.
Right.
They said if they wanted to go and watch Most Haunted's top 10 moments, they'd watch it on the internet.
Yeah.
So that's what
But
they're
they
doing.
paid 20. Yeah, that was all they did was show the top 10 most haunted moments. But apparently Pendle Hill was number one, but Sky wouldn't let them release any of the royalties to the Pendle Hill episode. So they had to think of something else instead as their number one.
Yes, well, we all know
because Sky's still got the rights to the early shows.
there's a certain person that we know that's got a lot of the rights to it. Talk to Viv. That's all I can say.
So yeah, because it was Living TV at the time when Most Haunted first came out onto TV. It was on Living TV, which was run by Sky.
Yeah.
But
a certain person produced it, didn't it?
Yeah, but they said they'd got some lady had stood up and volunteered to be on the séance, and it turned out to be the same lady that was picked 15 years ago on a live show.
What a surprise!
Yeah. They did a Ouija board session, and the planchette just kept going round and round in circles. Nothing happened, and that was basically it. They said it was a waste of £52.
Exactly.
And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but I could have told you that before you even brought the tickets." Hey, Reg.
Yeah, even a novice in the field could have told them that.
But in all fairness, though, it was for Lou, his partner Lou's birthday, and she wanted to go. So, but I think Reg is watching tonight as well. So,
Tom,
right, Reg.
Tom, they can never get back.
I think when you've got TV shows trying to cash in on things like that, it's like we're saying about the movies. You got movies that have they've made a movie about a place that was haunted or is haunted. They've made it out more than it actually is, and then they're cashing in on it after exhausting the funds. Trying to sell the DVD and getting it into the cinema and things like that. Yeah, they're not getting any more out of that. So they've gone, well, actually, if we hire the building out, we can make more money off it. And this is what they're doing.
And this is why I've always said that we need a clear distinction between entertainment and investigation. It's awkward, we can't do it. But I wish we could.
Anyway, Nick, check your messenger.
All right, what did you guys send me this time?
I've sent you the video of Rainbow.
Have you sent the right
Okay.
version though, and not the rude one?
No, I've sent him the normal one.
And then for a laugh, send him the naughty version.
Yeah.
Is there any difference?
Oh, the pictures are a little
Yeah, there is.
I was gonna say the picture is a little bit grainy. Give me a second here. Hold on. Give me a second. I'm trying to full screen it. The picture's really grainy though.
That's
That would be.
17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, hang on.
It's an old version. Yeah. And you wonder why
Yeah, I think I'm beginning to understand now why people are saying that's not okay to include in a children's show.
Yeah, but the
That's
thing is,
compared to Captain Pugwash.
in the 80s, Bungle banging away on a drum was seen as innocent.
Yes. And twanging his thingy, as they say. That's it.
Two aliens, one probe.
Can I play the judge?
Imagine
Yes,
if
you can
someone
also
tried like
imagine
making a modern
someone-
version. Yeah, imagine if someone made like a re-image of that show and they tried putting all that content in. I'd be like, and that's the first time where they accidentally truly caused controversy for a real children's show.
Yeah. Unfortunately, all our children's shows were like that here.
I
yeah.
believe it.
Well, yeah, Rod Hull and Emu. I mean, about a bloke that's going around with an oversized bird, and he's walking around with his hand up his backside.
Yeah.
You know.
And yet,
So
that's being set in TV.
And we won't
And
say
yet,
we'll
and
fix
yet
it.
some bloody Smith.
I remember in the 70s there were so many kids that wished they'd get an answer from Jim will fix it. And now these guys are all glad they didn't get one.
what a refund.
Oh yeah,
Jim,
we'll refund for that. Hell yeah.
I mean, that is the problem, isn't it? You know, things that we have seen as innocent nowadays, and it's the PC brigade. You know, it's these snowflakes that are all like, oh, I'm offended. Well, what are you offended over?
I know.
You know, and it's just getting beyond a joke.
You know what it is, don't you? They didn't get a blue Peter Blood.
Buy one off of eBay. Get one off of eBay, it's quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
You might have got one off of that Fielding back in the day.
Yes, exactly.
She's probably got a drawer full of them.
Yeah. Where do you think she got her idea from?
But I think it's getting to a stage where, to be honest, they might even start attacking horrors and ghost stories and ghost shows and things like that because of its content.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot being banned, isn't there?
Oh, I'm sure.
You know, I mean, yesterday, myself, Ellen, and my host, Reg, we went into the Blackpool Dungeons. Now, we had already said we weren't going to take our two youngest, Tamsin and Freddie, with us because it would be too scary for them. And within 5 minutes of getting into the dungeons, there was two kids there, about 4 and 7. And within 5 minutes, they were bawling their eyes out and screaming to want to get out.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
geez.
you know, you can see on the adverts outside that this place is designed to scare you. It's not supposed to be funny for kids to go and see. It's designed to scare you. And me, I peed myself all the way through. I thought it was hilarious until we got to the end where they did one of the gallows. We were all convicted of witchcraft, and we all faced the gallows. And you have to get on this row of chairs, and it takes you up and then this old bloke's face pops up in front of you and says, "You've been sentenced to death," blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden the whole thing just goes boom, drops. Of course, I'm in creases, laughing my head off, looking at Ellen, and then when we went through to where they did the photo, all you've got is me pissing myself laughing. And poor Ellen's hair is all up in front of her face. You couldn't see her face. She's screaming her head off. But they literally got a height restriction, 1.4 meters and below. You ain't going on the ride. But there should be an age restriction on the whole thing because these two kids, you know, the parents had paid a lot of money to go in now. And it scared the living daylights out of them. They did nothing but cry all the way round.
Yeah.
Didn't bother me none, but it bothered the parents.
I've never caught due to Madame Tussauds. I pretended I was a little older than I was to go and look at these the disease section.
Yeah,
and I was looking at two with syphilis and things like that, and yeah, let's put it this way: I've never thought anything due to that.
Yeah, I mean, that is one section of Two Swords in Blackpool that I would have really loved to go to. But they've condemned it.
Yes.
It's too dangerous now, so they've closed it off to the public, which is a shame because I'd have loved to have gone down there.
Yeah, I went with the
It would have been nice to have gone into the crypt and have a look around.
Oh, yeah.
With the lights out.
You need to come over and...
Of
course. Yeah.
We've got 12th century churches that are Baptist demon churches. They're basically being discommunicated because the activities have gone on. Very nice, very real atmosphere to it, and a stone's throw from a 17th, 18th century church, which is 3 times the size of it. It's very diminutive. It's got some famous people in it still, in the graveyard, but the actual church there's not a lot left of it. But it's got an atmosphere. There's just no feel of clergy left in it, even though you can tell it is. But right atmosphere. And there's a crypt. Very good. You can only get in at certain times at the year, though. Because it floods.
Yeah, we like a good crypt.
Yeah, it's a Wentworth. Call it Wentworth. I don't care who knows it's public, so what's up, William? What are you doing?
As Ellen's
Lemon.
attacking me with her sweaty feet.
What was that? No, what did you say?
I just said you were attacking me with your sweaty feet.
Excuse me, the cat sneezed on my foot, so I wiped her sneeze on your leg.
The cat didn't get on your leg.
Okay.
Sneeze.
When
Oh,
they make me feel about it.
The cat sneezed on her foot, so she wiped her foot on my leg.
okay.
Sarah.
Okay then.
You're very welcome.
Go back to your earphones.
Anywho,
Yes, anywho.
noon, so we're half an hour over the time. So I think we ought to wrap it up and call it an evening.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I've got a lot
So-
of work to do before I can go to bed.
We don't want to know.
Yeah. You got
No. I've got I'm Colchester tomorrow. I've got I'm doing a Comic-Con. It's called Invasion Colchester.
Oh, nice.
And the whole city centre has stalls. They've got an autograph stand. They've got a Star Wars room where you can have photos taken with stormtroopers and stuff like that. And I've been invited up there as host of Truth Beyond Paranormal, Spook and Ori, and the Dark Mirror Radio Show. So I'm going to be in the city centre myself with a stall with various bits of equipment and telling tales of my experiences and stuff like that. So it's, I'm looking forward to it.
If I'd have known beforehand, I could have arranged something, but I think from me, it's somewhat like a 4.5 hour drive. So, something bad.
Problem is, it was all. I mean, I did the Invasion Colchester last year, and she said you're more than welcome to come back, but then nothing. I never heard nothing, and I'm like, right, okay. So I went into where she worked and said to her, is it going to be on this year? So we literally got 3 weeks' notice. She's like, yeah, it's been a bit of a rush, and I think it's probably more because of. She's got a guy from Star Wars, which got me in hysterics. The picture they've used to advertise this guy from Star Wars, he's going to be there signing autographs and things. He was behind Princess Leia when she awarded the medals to Han Solo and Chewbacca at the end of Star Wars: A New Hope.
Right.
That's this guy's claim to fame. That he was standing behind Princess Leia in Star Wars, and I'm like, I don't think I'd want to admit to that, to be honest.
Yeah.
even on the poster, it's a picture of Princess Leia standing there, and this geezer's standing behind her, and I'm like, well, it's obviously not Princess Leia who's going to be at the Comic-Con because she's dead, so it must be the other guy. And he's just in the background going,
perhaps she is going to be there. That's why they've got you there too.
yeah.
Well,
Probably.
Wayne, if you need somebody famous, give me a shout, because my claim to fame is I showed Barry Hines the Kestrel's nest in Kent. Well, hey.
And I'll be at the so yeah, lovely.
Your dentist is open on a Saturday?
Yes, I'm private.
Oh, there you go.
I was going to say I'm surprised because I thought they're usually not open during the weekends.
Yeah, well, we know who's got money. Don't we?
I'm just waiting for mine to fall out.
Anyway, guys,
I'm just letting mine fall out and I'll just get a false pair. Easier to look after. I
It's just
just stick them in the jar
3:30.
overnight, and that's it. I ain't got to worry about brushing them in my mouth, have I?
I don't.
Well,
I
Lorna?
don't know about yeah.
Well, on that note, I suppose we better call it a night then, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've already gone a little bit longer than expected, but it's still been a good time.
We always have a good time.
Well, as
So-
you're in control,
So, yeah, I do. So, I guess the real question is, what will we be talking about for next week's show?
Well, that depends on the Iron Blue Goddess, doesn't it? I mean, she might declare another girls' night, so we never know.
It's a bit like with me and Mark on the Dark Mirror radio show. We say, well, this week we're going to be talking about this, and we mention it for about a minute, and then all of a sudden we've just gone completely off handle,
yeah.
and we're all over the place. And we'd end up talking about the price. We end up talking about the price of potatoes instead of talking about an alien abduction. And
You see, we know who to blame, don't we now? We know to blame now, don't we, Ian? Because we were doing fine until Wayne turned up.
well, you know, every show
check out
has
what-
to have that comedy element.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Colette, I guess that's saying she's going to an event in Boston.
Dave
What,
Slater.
homie, Neil Daniel Class. Good. I won't say it's Dave from the Hoser Files. You know what? I've actually met both of them. Great guys.
Yeah, I like Dave. Well,
Is
on
that the event that you're going to be wear your Spookinori t-shirt, Colette?
Ooh.
That's a good question.
Colette was the first person to buy one of my Spookinori t-shirts.
Woo.
Yeah, so what you're hoping
nice.
is that Brady will be the next.
I've only sold 3.
You've only sold 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a slow start.
You have to send us the link. Then.
The problem is I get people say to me, "Oh, I'd rather have a hoodie." I'm like, "All right, okay." So I've got to do hoodies as well now.
Yes. So you should. It's
Right.
getting into winter.
Yeah. But I will
Well, I guess
venture
at this
into
point we'll
hoodies as
step
well.
talk. No, I guess we'll have to talk to Lois and see if she had something in mind, or if we got a guest coming on. I'm going to be talking to her this weekend, so she'll probably give me an update.
I don't know. We'd have to look back in Messenger to her dictionary note. That's it. That's if it's still there.
Yeah.
She didn't say we had a guest next week, so
No, I think because everything went a bit pear-shaped, didn't it, with ladies' night and that. So
yeah.
Yeah, it didn't
I
go
think
as
it's all gone a
planned.
bit of
So,
a kilter.
I guess I think they're going to reschedule it.
Yeah, we
No comment.
have enough time to find our wigs and dresses, so that messed it up.
we don't have to put the makeup on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ian, you didn't get to be the stripper in this case. Remember they asked you for me to be the stripper?
Oh, dear.
I'm going to get the Captain Rainbow in.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I guess
with that
on that
being
note,
said, I think we'll probably end here.
say goodnight to everyone.
Yeah, so
Thanks for
thank you
listening.
everybody for tuning in. And
We'll hopefully see
I guess we'll let you guys know what's going on for next week.
Yeah.
So it's good night from me. And it's good night from me.
It's good night for me as well, but you know, it's Good night from me.
It's still the afternoon. It's still the afternoon for me here, though. So that's yeah. So
It's good afternoon from
day
me.
for me. So, all right. But anyways, thank you guys all for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. So you guys have a good night / day. All right. Take care, everyone.
Good night.